Okay, I'll make a start. I just gave it a couple of minutes there to allow people to get in. It's just gone a little minute or two after three. I know everyone's on mute, so I'm not expecting people to talk back to me. But a pleasure to talk to you over the next hour. I'm going to try and keep everything within 60 minutes. We will have time for a bit of a Q&A as well. So for those of you that are familiar with Zoom, you'll see the little Q&A, the little chat box. So if you do have any questions, you can type them into that, and then we'll allow a bit of time at the end where I can go through some of them. Just going to kick it off, like I said, pleasure to chat to you today. My background, I suppose, is coming from the world of sport. That ended, and then I had to kind of figure things out. So I'm going to go through the highs and lows. As you see, the title is Running from Uncertainty. I think we find ourselves in a climate of uncertainty at the moment. And that's probably thrown a lot of routines up in the air, things that we're used to doing, whether it's working with colleagues face to face, whether it's your own personal routine. Maybe that commute has changed. Maybe you're at home, you've got kids, you've got maybe parents that you're looking after. All of these things are quite kind of new for a lot of people, myself included. So I'm going to talk around those and give you a few tips, pointers, things that I've kind of implemented over the last couple of years, and just try and keep it lighthearted as well. So please feel free if you have any questions. Just my own kind of background to kick it all off. That little video clip that I was playing there, I hope you all didn't think you're going to watch that for the next 40, 50 minutes. That's just something to engage people at the start. I think we're all adapting to working online and working virtually. And I've done a few kind of Zoom webinars where we're all kind of looking at each other over the first couple of minutes and it's kind of silent and a little bit awkward. So I thought I'd just throw that up just for something that kind of keeps engagement in the virtual world or in the virtual room that we're in. So just my own background. As I said, athletics was a huge part of my life. Some people might recognize me more for that TV show I did nearly 7 years ago, which was MasterChef. I managed to do well at that. I actually won that. That was a celebrity version of the show. And I continued to milk the backside out of it. I'll be honest. I went on and wrote a couple of cookbooks. And to be fair, it opened up a lot of opportunities. And I suppose I found that there was something out there that I had a passion for, that wasn't just about running around a track. So I'm going to touch on elements of that, how I went about my career, goals, a bit of a structure, a bit of a plan, dealing with uncertainty, dealing with change, and how I became a little bit more resilient through adversity. And again, it's something that I want to kind of share with you all here today, and a few little tips and pointers, how to look after yourself, both physically, mentally, in your professional capacity, and also in your personal lives as well. So if I go back to the very start of my athletic career, this was an image of me winning my first European title back in 2005. At that time, it was Ireland's first gold medal in a sprint event in, I think it was about 76 years. So it was actually quite a big thing, to be honest. And I think, to be honest with you as well, it was a huge learning curve for me. As a little kid, I dreamt about these moments. Maybe I'd win a medal, maybe I'd do a lap of honour and get on the podium, Euron Avine, all that sort of stuff. And it came true on this night in Madrid. I went into these championships quite under the radar. Nobody expected a whole lot from me. And I qualified for the final. I ran a personal best, and then I won a gold medal, and it was brilliant. And I look back at the time, and it was something that, was a dream come true. Like I said, winning and getting on the podium, friends, family, all that were there. It was crazy. It was amazing. That was on a Saturday night. I came back to Dublin on a Monday, and I'll never forget it because it was just something that I never expected and had never experienced before. The plane landed in Dublin Airport, and then there was a guy with bagpipes standing at the end of the stairs, and he walked me through the whole of Dublin Airport, and I was like the Queen in behind waving at everyone. Again, never had a welcome like that before. But what it did do, I suppose it gave me a bit of attention. Suddenly, headlines, faces in the paper, a bit of exposure, which was great. It opened up, again, a lot of opportunities in terms of sponsors and in terms of just furthering my athletic career. But at the same time, a lot of questions. Now people knew who I was, and now people asked, when was my next race? Can I beat the Americans? Can I beat the Jamaicans? And all this sort of stuff. And that was quite challenging in itself because I'd never experienced that before. I was living at home in Ballantyre in Dublin, and I used to get the Lewis into college. I was in DIT Angel Street. And on the Tuesday, I hopped on the Lewis as per normal, heading into lectures, and they used to hand out this free Metro paper. And the Lewis was packed. It was rush hour in the morning. And I was standing beside a guy who was reading one of these papers. And he flipped over in the back pages. He looks down, he looks back up, he looks down. And it was my fat head in the back pages. Again, I felt very uncomfortable. It was something I hadn't experienced. And I suddenly felt an element of pressure, anxiety, all of these emotions. And I suppose it was something that I'd never experienced before. So that was my first kind of dealing with expectation, element of pressure, and all of these sort of emotions that came to the fore. But what I did do, I continued, I improved as an athlete. 2006 came around. I was now going for the European Outdoor Championships. So what you're looking at there, that image is indoors. Now I was going for outdoors. It was a level above. And I progressed. In 2006, I was getting faster. I was running about 45.6. So that number might mean nothing to you, but world class for 100 meter running is under 45 seconds. So I needed to get under that 44 or under 45, 44.9, 44.8, whatever it was. That would put me in a world class level. So I went to Gothenburg for the European Outdoor Championships, and unfortunately it went horribly wrong. I was last in my semi-final, Paddy last, way out the back door, and it was embarrassing, to be brutally honest. I crossed the line, and I felt I let a lot of people down, my friends, my family. They'd all come out, my coach. I felt I let them all down. Now, in athletics, after a race, you walk through the mix zone where all the media are, and obviously questions: what happened? You've come last in a semi-final. You've won a European Indoor Championship the year before. What happened? And I suppose I wanted to blame everybody else. I wanted to blame my coach. I wanted to blame the track. I wanted to blame the weather, the noise, all of these things. But deep down, I couldn't, because I knew what happened. I bottled it. I froze. I didn't deal with the expectation. I didn't deal with the challenges. I just thought, you know what, I'll hop into the blocks, on your marks, get set, the gun will go, and everything will work out okay. I was now at a different level, and it didn't. It went, like I said, horrendously wrong. I now look back on my career, and it was probably the biggest moment or learning curve that I ever had, because it forced me to debrief. It forced me to reflect. It forced me to get a pen and paper and simply sit down and ask myself some kind of tough questions. Where was I going? What did I want to do? What was my purpose? What were the gaps? And then try and put them into some form of actions. I'd never done that before. I'd never debriefed. When the going's good, I just cracked on as normal. Suddenly, it went horribly wrong. Now it was time to really sit down and ask myself where I wanted to go. I was pretty young at the time. I was about 21, and I was coming to the end of my college career, I suppose. And I was now faced with a decision. Did I want to give athletics a go? Did I want to go full time? Did I want to give it a crack? Or did I want to, I suppose, go on and get a job and do what a lot of my friends were doing, which at that time looked good because they were earning money. They were moving out of home. They were buying nice clothes, nice cars, all this sort of stuff. But I think deep down with me, I took ownership. And the next little slide is a little video clip. And it really resonated with me more recently because I was in a completely different phase of my life, which I will talk about. But it brought me back to that point in 2006 when I had to reflect, I had to debrief, and I had to take ownership. So I'll play that now. Bear with me 1 second. Here we go. So this should play.
It's the last goodbye, I swear. I have no regrets, for the past is behind me.
I'm not here today to sell you Under Armour kit or anything like that. That is, of course, Michael Phelps. But that key kind of quote at the end about ruling yourself is vitally important. And for me, that was the clincher. That was the big thing. Sorry, it's playing again. Here we go. The big thing for me at the time was trying to take ownership. As a young guy leaving college, obviously there was other options, straight into work, like I said, doing what a lot of my friends were doing, which at the time was very appealing. But I suppose I made a promise with myself that I didn't want to get to the age of 30 and look back and go, what if I gave running a go? What would have happened? Yes, of course, I had the dream of making the Olympic Games, representing my country on the highest level within my sport. But it came to a point when I had to make a decision. Did I really want to give this a go, and what was going to happen? And I think it goes back to that purpose. I wanted to become a full-time athlete. So I made a decision that I was going to take ownership and I was going to relocate. So I moved over to Loughborough University in the UK because I wanted to put myself in an environment where I was challenged every single day, almost like an ecosystem where, you know, there was world-class athletes around me, Olympic medalists, world medalists, European medalists. And those are the people that are going to help me raise the bar every single day. You know, I really enjoyed living at home. I really enjoyed the group that I was with and my coach. But if I wanted to get a next level, I had to take ownership. And that purpose, that why, and, you know, you start with yourself, that feeling in your gut. I wanted to give it a crack. And that was my promise. Get to the age of 30, look back and go, well, you know what, David, you gave it a go. So that was my kind of promise. As I said, I relocated over and I absolutely loved it. Really, really enjoyed it. I was in an environment where I was challenged every single day, surrounded by some cracking athletes. And it changed my mindset. And I think in terms of mental well-being, even your own hopes and dreams. And obviously we're in a climate now where we've had to change things, whether it was holidays, whether it was career progression. A lot of things like that have maybe stalled. Maybe you're frustrated with it. Maybe you're a bit anxious. Maybe you're worried. Maybe there's people here that have lost their job or lost incomes. All of these things can affect the way we feel about ourselves and the way we think about ourselves and even talk to ourselves. So for me, it was a case of I was very fixed in my mindset. Did I truly believe I could be an athlete, an Irish athlete, that could run 44 seconds and get on to a global 400-meter final, be it at a Worlds or an Olympic Games? Did I truly believe I could run those times? No, I didn't. Every time I thought about, you know, 44.5, 44.6 or whatever it was, a little voice would come in and say, David, you're not good enough. You're from Dublin, Ireland. We can't run that fast. Forget about it. Do something else. Change event, change sport. All of these things was going on in my head. So a very fixed mindset. I believed I was born with a certain level of talent, certain level of IQ, and that was me boxed off. And I think sometimes when we look at our own hopes and dreams, that's the thing that pulls us back. It's not anybody else, it's ourselves. And it's how we talk to ourselves. The opposite of that is your growth mindset, where you're willing to put up your hand and ask for help and advice. You're willing to learn new skills, throw yourself into something. That fear factor, you know what, smash through it. I'm going to try something, see what happens. If I fail, but I'll learn. And that was the mindset. And put myself in an environment where I was challenged, that really, really helped. So the little image that you're seeing here, that little pyramid in the middle, that was my plan. That was my exact plan. I wrote that in 2007. So I moved over in 2006. I retained my European title in 2007, my second Europeans, and I also qualified for the Olympic Games a year and a half in advance. So I was improving. My times were going in the right direction, but I still had this nagging little voice. 2 Europeans are great, but I wanted to go to the global. I wanted to go to a world level. So I sat down 2007 and I wrote this plan. And in the middle, you'll see that little pyramid. And at the very top of that was a global final, Olympics or world final. I went through all the previous results and I looked at what, on average, was a time that would get an athlete to a final. And it was 44.8. I hadn't even broken 45 at this point. I was running about half a second slower. Now, half a second mightn't sound that much, but it's probably somewhere in the region of a good couple of meters, probably 5-10 meters over 400 meters. It's quite a lot. And that's what I needed to make up. So I challenged myself. I started looking at the simple things that I was doing over the course of the day, the week, the year, my nutrition, my rest, my mindset. And at the very bottom of that pyramid are people, because what you see, I suppose, when you watch the Olympics next year, Tokyo 2021, you will see individuals on the track. But what you don't see is the team of people behind that individual. And that's something that I learned. When I was over in Loughborough, I realized my training partner had a team. All of these people, whether a nutritionist, a psychologist, a strength and conditioning coach, they'd all get together on a regular basis. And I'd see this, and I'd see them all sitting around, collaborating, How are we going to improve my training partner? How are we going to get my training partner to run faster, win medals? And that's when I realized, you know what, this isn't an individual sport. I need people. And I suppose I looked at myself, okay, what are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What are the areas that I need to work on? I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to get into a kitchen and cook. I don't know how to get into a gym and get stronger, leaner, improve my body composition. I didn't know. So I began to ask. I began to build a great team of people around me. And that was the bedrock of this foundation. And I think right now we're challenged with these. A lot of people working remotely. Maybe your routine has changed. Maybe, collaborating with people is a little bit difficult at times, but we can all work on that. And I think collaboration right now is absolutely paramount. Likewise, communication. How we communicate. Again, we're all on a Zoom call, but it's going to have to change because we now have to listen a little bit more. We now have to give someone the time to talk because we can't chip in, we can't cut them off on a Zoom because it's very noticeable. So again, it's a case of stripping back, writing down things, learning a little bit. Maybe we're going to become better listeners. But for me, that communication piece was cool. I needed to know my strengths, my weaknesses, and then obviously build a team around that. Who did I need? Bring people in, and on a regular basis, communicate into simple things. How are we going to implement change? How are we going to accept change? And then how are we going to improve things? And that was, I suppose, when you're looking at here, it's the 5 C's when I look back on my career. Courage, obviously, getting my stripes to a goal, having a clear goal and having the courage to actually attack it, and then commitment to it as well, commitment to the cause. And then finally, camaraderie. And again, we're challenged with that at the moment. We're not around the people that we're familiar with, maybe in terms of work, the people that you rely on, and the people that help you learn and achieve your own goals. So again, how do we do that? Whether it's through Zoom calls, whether it's on the phone, whatever way it is, but having an element of fun as well. And what you see here in that image, I had a great team of people, people that helped me, service providers, but also people that I trained with. We traveled the world together, we had a laugh, and that was extremely important because when I was having a laugh and I was having a bit of fun, I was enjoying what I was doing. And trust me, there was highs and lows. There was days where things didn't go to plan, but this plan, this was the bedrock. This was something that I had for me. It was in my bedroom. I wasn't shown a lot of people, but it was mine, and that gave me huge encouragement because I think sometimes with our own hopes and dreams and goals, we look at the end result, particularly in, say, the fitness world or body composition world. What date am I going to be fitter? What date am I going to lose that extra kg or stone, whatever it is? And right now we're in a world where it's very uncertain, and we're looking for that date that normal service will resume, whatever that might be, but it's not there yet. We have a roadmap, and it's something that we're all trying to adhere to, but it's challenging. And I think for me, it's going back to basics. It's looking at our own plans. What are we doing on a day-to-day basis? Are we providing ourselves a bit of structure? Are we providing ourselves a bit of self-care? And are we communicating on a regular basis? Because there's a lot of people that are isolated now, and they may not be the greatest communicators. They could be very reluctant to get on a Zoom call or even get on a Zoom call and turn the camera off. All of that sort of stuff does impact and challenge how we communicate. But the plan that's behind you, all the little pictures, there were things that just motivated me, things that I suppose gave me encouragement. And that's what I would say as well to a lot of people is we can look to other people to give us confidence, self-esteem, self-worth, all of these kind of words. But if we're not willing to pat ourselves on the back now and again for a job well done, and I think right now is extremely important because there's probably people on this call that are spinning numerous plates. Maybe you've got kids, maybe you're working extremely hard, you've got deadlines, all of these sort of things, and you're trying to juggle that and fit that all into a day, and then maybe make the dinner, the lunch, and the breakfast. Because I know in our house right now, I'm obviously working, my wife works, we've got 2 small kids, a 4-year-old and almost a 2-year-old, and it is challenging. I'm not going to lie, it is challenging. But if we don't make a structure, if we don't try at least to communicate a little bit better, well, then it's just a firefight to the end of the week. So the little pictures here on the left-hand side, you'll see little confidence peaks. Again, looking back at my successes in my athletic career, and this was something I really was reluctant to do. I felt it was taking things for granted. I always needed more, but in actual fact, I needed to pat myself on the back now and then and tell myself, you know what, I'm actually good at what I do. Likewise, the knives on the right hand side, that was just times that I slayed a dragon. Again, I'm just looking for confidence, reminding myself of my past successes. And I think that's incredibly important. You're all very good and talented at what you do. I know I'm talking to probably a lot of high achievers. don't be afraid to pat yourself on the back. Don't be afraid to tell yourself you're good at what you do. It's not being arrogant or egotistical. It's just giving yourself a bit of confidence. And I think that's vitally, vitally important. So some of these little images here, they're just things that motivated me, things that inspired me, the acts. In a whole year, 12 months, I might have maybe 10 key 400 meter races. So if I'm looking for 45 seconds, that's 450 seconds out of the whole year. So that's not a lot of time. So my preparation is absolutely vital. So the axe signifies, Abraham Lincoln had a quote when he said, if I had 9 hours to cut down a tree, I'd spend 6 sharpening my axe. And for me, it's all about that preparation. It's all about working hard every day in order to achieve that goal on top of that pyramid. And I'll be honest with you, I did get to the top of that pyramid. It took a while. It didn't happen overnight. So unfortunately, I'm not Santa Claus. If you write this down today, it may not come true tomorrow. It may not come true even next year. But it gave me a plan, and it happened 2 years later. So I wrote that in 2007. 2009, I finally got to the top of that. The fastest time I've ever ran for 400 meters is 44.77. So the number at the top of that is 44.80. So I got there. And it's amazing what you can achieve with a pen and paper and a bit of, I suppose, belief within yourself and some hard questions. What are the gaps? And then try and look at putting them into actions. And that's exactly what I did here, the little 1%. So instead of looking at the end goal, I focused on the process. What were the things I could do? What were the things that I can control? And that became a little 1% here, 1% here. I'm going to improve my diet. I'm going to get into bed a little bit earlier. I'm going to ask this guy for help in the gym. And suddenly there's 5%, 10%. It gave me belief. So 2009, I came 6th in the World Championships, which was probably my biggest day on the track because it was a dream come true. I wanted to get an Irish Fest into a world final, and I wanted to be up there with some of the best athletes in the world. Not only up there, but I wanted to beat a few, to be brutally honest. And I wanted to be up there consistently. And that season was a great season for me. 2010 was another good season, just missed out on a European medal by 0.02 of a second. So even shorter, it was absolutely tiny. And that was, obviously I was disappointed, but I was running fast that year. And then unfortunately I got injured. And this is where things probably fall apart a little bit. I got badly injured in 2011. I missed that season. And then I was in America and I wanted to come back to Loughborough because America, I got badly injured. And I came back to Loughborough in the UK ahead of London. And that's when, again, I got injured and I missed the London Olympics. But I said I didn't want to end things then. I want to give it another go. And 2013 got myself back into really good shape. Around this time of the year, I was actually in Australia. I was preparing for a race in Japan and I tore my Achilles. And that was it. That was the writing was on the wall. I've had enough. I was now 30, so I could look back at that promise and say, do you know what, David, you've given it a go. Fair play. You've won a couple of medals, Olympic Games, 44 seconds. It's time to move on. I'll be honest, I thought I could. And I retired. I hung up my spikes. I was now back in Dublin. I just done MasterChef. I won that and I was thinking, oh, this is great, few opportunities. It opened up a couple of doors. But I wasn't happy. I didn't know what to do. I literally did not know what to do. And I suppose the real kind of element of this, my mental health completely and utterly deteriorated. I had no purpose. I had no drive. I had no routine. Everything had changed. And I think it's quite poignant because that's where we are right now. We're dealing with an awful, awful lot of change. I came back to Dublin. I woke up on a Monday morning and I did not know what I was going to do with the rest of my life. I didn't know what I was good at because my identity was just all about athletics. That's who I was. And that's who I thought people thought I was. I was just good at one thing, running around an oval track. And I was defined by a number, my personal best. And that's all that people kind of cared about. I didn't know what I wanted to do, which was really, really hard because for so long I was that athlete and I knew what I was doing every day, every week, every month, every year, every 4-year Olympic cycle. That's the way that world works, every 4 years. Suddenly I was waking up on a Monday morning and I had nothing to do. I had nowhere to go. I had no training sessions planned, nothing. So my self-worth, my self-esteem just completely and utterly bottomed out. I panicked. I took a first job that came my way. I had a master's in sports management at the end of my career. So I thought, you know what, maybe working in the area of sport. I was working for a sports brand, which I thought was a good fit. But the reality of that was I was spending an awful lot of time by myself. I was remote working. I was based here in Ireland and my direct team was based over in the UK. And I wasn't great at picking up the phone. not at all. So stress levels went through the roof, panic. I began comfort eating. I didn't exercise. I didn't want to be around people. I didn't want to talk to people because I didn't want the questions. I really did not want the questions of what was I going to do next. And, then people saying, you should do this, you be good at that. I didn't have a clue. I literally did not have a clue. And I really struggled as a result. My stress, and this is something that I'm sure we're quite aware of, but I was completely, I had chronic stress, if you want to call it that way. And it affected all these areas physically. And again, these might be something that a lot of people on this call might be feeling. Maybe you don't know how to exactly articulate it, and you're questioning, am I tired? Why am I tired? Is it mentally? Is it physical? Stress can impact across different levels and different areas. And I think it's something that people are kind of finding tough at the moment. Now, don't get me wrong, maybe people are kind of enjoying working remotely, and maybe they're great at managing their own time, and they're getting used to it, they're into a routine. But for a lot of people, it's brand new. But physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritual, this was exactly some of the areas that I really struggled with. And probably down the end, spiritual, I didn't have a purpose. And as a result, I disconnected myself from a lot of people. I was always anxious, worried, and depressed. And that really affected a lot of relationships. I was always tired and lethargic, and I couldn't focus. I literally couldn't focus on my job. I wasn't willing to put my hand up and ask for help or advice. I thought I should know this. So I just buried the head in the sand and just try and crack on. And this went on for weeks, months, even years. I'll be honest, I didn't talk to anybody. And I just had no energy. Like I said, I didn't even want to leave the house. So for someone who was so regimented, routine-based, motivated, determined, I was mad into my fitness. I was really conscious of my diet, and I love to eat well. I'd gone the complete opposite. In fact, Tuesday was my favorite day because Domino's Pizza used to do 2 large pizzas for the price of 1. I'd be straight on the phone, give us 2 large pizzas and a tub of Ben & Jerry's, and I'd just go for it. I'd absolutely burn through all that food. I'd wake up the next day feeling horrendous about myself, and it was just that vicious spiral. I'd get into the car. I might be driving 4 hours by myself. I wouldn't listen to a radio, playlist, Spotify, podcast, nothing. I was listening to the guy inside my head here, and my internal dialogue was just really, really negative. And that was ongoing. It was a radio station that I couldn't shut up, I couldn't turn off, I couldn't switch. And that was literally my existence. And I know I've been open and honest here, but I think it's important. I think, sharing my own story might inspire someone to ask for help, or even someone to have a conversation with someone that they trust. And that's really, really important. So I apologize if I'm kind of bearing my soul, but I think it's the only way that we can create awareness around some of the impacts of stress or depression or anxiety that a lot of people will be feeling right now. For me, I was diagnosed with depression, and it began, I suppose, with a bit of a journey in terms of understanding myself. And I think when we look at resilience, it's a word that we hear quite a lot, and sometimes people think, is it something I can just go out and buy? Is it something that I become resilient overnight? You become resilient because you go through adversity. And again, you look at where we're at right now. There's an element of accepting change, accepting that this is where we're at today, not a month, 2 months down the line, or maybe not idolizing your past and thinking, I wish it just goes back to the way it was. We don't know if that'll ever happen. So we have to accept where we're at now. And I know that's easier said than done. But if you look at a few of these little boxes here, taking ownership, taking charge. Okay, well, what can I do? Can I build a structure, a routine? Can I make things a little bit easier for myself? The purpose area is a huge kind of pillar of becoming a little bit more resilient. What is your purpose? Where do you see yourself in a year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever it is? Then ask yourself, okay, well, what are the gaps? The truth element, what are the gaps? And then turn those gaps into actions. And that gives you a bit of inspiration and little things you can work on. And I'm talking about this across your whole life, your personal life and your professional career. Build relationships if you can. Maybe get to know your colleagues a little bit better now through all of this. Maybe it's picking up the phone. Maybe you're struggling with a client. You're struggling on a task. Maybe it's a case of picking up the phone and asking someone, okay, how did you deal with this? Or I have this issue. Can you help me out? That gives you a sense of purpose and almost a bit of confidence because you'll come through that. Again, reflect. It's a time that maybe you've got more time on your hands. Maybe you can use this to sit back, pen and paper, ask yourself, okay, what have I learned? Try and use it in a positive way. And then your self-identity. And this was something that was really, really important to me. I had to work hard on this. It didn't happen overnight. But again, it was kind of looking, well, who is David Gillick? Am I just an athlete? What other areas am I interested in? Do I have any hobbies? What are my skills and my expertise? So again, it was going back to literally a bit of a mind map and writing down things that I felt I was good at, tapping into other people, asking for help and advice. And that's some of the things that I actually ended up doing. So what happened was, like I said, I was diagnosed with depression, and I kind of brushed it away because I thought, no, I'll be fine. And the worst day of the week for me was a Sunday because I dreaded a Monday. So I worked for the initial first year, and then I thought, you know what, it's the job. I need a new job. I got a new job. Exact same scenario. So it was now late 2015. So I kind of retired nearly 2 years, and I was struggling. It was a Sunday. Charlotte, my wife, was 8 months pregnant on her first child, Oscar, and I had a panic attack. Didn't know it at the time, but I had a panic attack on that Sunday. And to be honest, that was where reality hit. I needed help. I needed a bit of someone just to go and talk to be honest. And that's what I did. And then from that moment on, 2016, I started going to counselling. I went every week. I still go. And it was one of the best things I've ever done. Why? Because I've now learned little things about myself. The little triggers, the things that would set me off. Okay, well then I need to build a bit of strategy around these. And here's a few of them. Again, I've been open and honest. Sleep and recovery, looking after yourself, going back to literally time to go to bed, get up at the same time, build a bit of routine, factor in a bit of recovery over the course of the day. And again, it's quite important at the moment because if you're working from home, you might just crack on. You might work through lunch, work through breakfast, work late in the evening time. Are you actually getting recovery over the course of the day? Maybe it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, getting a bit of fresh air. Simple things that can go a long, long way. And then obviously sleep. Are we getting into bed? Do we have the TV on? Are we going to bed late? Are we using one of these guys? When you're in bed, you're on Facebook and all that crack. Again, just how that impacts you. For me, it was I got addicted to social media. I'll be honest. I was comparing myself with everyone, particularly sports people who'd retired. And then it was a case of, well, why wasn't I doing that? They're doing something. Why wasn't I doing that? Again, going back to healthy food and exercise, try and structure that in, build a bit of a plan and prioritize. So on a Sunday evening, I won't do it on a Sunday evening because it just reminds me of when I was back in school and the credits for Glen Rowe come on and you're thinking, oh shit, I haven't done my homework. So try and do it on a Friday. That's the way I kind of would do it now, 10, 15 minutes, plan the following week. What are my big rocks? What are the things that need to be done? Try and do those in the morning time, just give the day, get the day off to a good start. And just a bit of an overview of the week. The 3D technique, this is again going back to that internal voice. It was something that, it just was, I could not switch it off. And again, it was trying to quieten that internal voice. So this 3D technique, some people might know a book called The Chin Paradox by Dr. Steve Peters, a sports psychologist. And in that book, he talks about how he got a lot of his athletes to name the voice inside their head. So for me, it was a case of, okay, if that's David's voice, I'll allow David just to go on and on and on, and I'll believe it. The 3D technique is trying to distract yourself. So become a little bit more aware of when you were being really negative to ourselves, distract yourself, whether it's going for a walk, whether it's just stepping away from the laptop or whatever it is in the car, put the radio on or the window down, distract yourself, then distance yourself. Okay, so that's not David talking, that's somebody else. Now this is where it gets a bit crazy. You name the voice, all right? And I'll be honest with you, I named him Chopper Reed. He's an Australian criminal, Chopper Reed. Google him, lunatic. It's Chopper inside my head, right? It's not David. And when his Chopper's rattling away, telling me I'm useless, I'll dispute that. So the last D, dispute it. I'll actually argue it because a lot of the thoughts inside our head can be irrational thoughts, things that have never happened, but yet we allow them to fester. And you know what? We believe them. So again, becoming a little bit more aware of how we talk to ourselves, particularly in a time of uncertainty, a time of change, where, we don't really know. This is all new. This is all different. I don't really like this. That little negative voice can be really, really loud. Going back to your successes, remember all the good things that you have done, okay? Not the things that you haven't, all the things that you have done really, really well, and you hit your targets, all those sort of crack. Pat yourself on the back and remind yourself. And then finally, advice, mentor, and support. We all have great networks, but how many people are using them? How many people are actually willing to pick up the phone? Right now, people could have the time to help out, and what I found in my experience is people that I admire, people that I would know through business, even dropping them an email and go, here, can I have a coffee with you, or now can have a Zoom with you, people are only too willing to give back and help out. It could be 10-minute chat, it could be an hour chat. But again, for me, that was really important because I don't have all the answers. I wasn't even sure what I wanted to do post-career. But by talking to these people, it really, really helped. And again, that's just some of the strategies that I kind of implemented. And again, it's a learning curve. It's things that I would have never thought of. But again, by going even to counselling, even talking about it has really, really helped. So just a few there. But I suppose kind of, looking back at the stress, I now look at stress as, what, it's actually a good thing. And this might sound completely crazy, but sometimes when I get stressed, I actually work. I have to. It's kind of right, let's crack on, let's do it. I feel good when I sit down and I do a task or I accomplish something, both physically and mentally as well. When I feel like I'm doing things like that and stress has impacted me to kind of work, I feel I have a little bit more patience. And again, we talk about resilience. Resilience for me is you're able to bounce back a little bit quicker. So emotional stresses, it can be really, really good. Again, mentally, you feel challenged. You feel like you're working. You feel like you're progressing. And if you look at well-being, and a lot of research coming from the States, one key pillar of it is about that self-progression. You feel like you're progressing. You feel like you're working towards something. And that's really, really important. So self-development comes into that. So again, it's tapping up people, it's ringing them, it's kind of learning. And then obviously spiritual as well, going back to that purpose. And I think when we can define a purpose, and it's tough to do so, but when we kind of give or allow ourselves time to just think about what we want to do, how can I work on it, you get a bit of, it's like you release those endorphins like you would when you're out going for a run or a walk. So again, stress isn't all bad. It can be really positive if we kind of manage it. And that's the key word, is managing it. And that kind of ties into these kind of 4 areas. Okay. So again, your mindset is crucially important right now. Again, adversity, change, your mindset, how you deal with that inner voice. Are we positive? Are we negative? How you engage with people? And again, it could be people in this call that are managing people. So again, you're the leader. And if you can be maybe transparent, be open, be honest, tell it like it is, be authentic. There's no manual in terms of how to get through this pandemic that we're in. So there's no harm in going, you know what, I'm struggling. And I'll be honest, I've struggled through this. I've had great days. I've had really bad days. At the start, it was like, oh, this is all new. And then second week, oh, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get on and do an online course. By the third week, the reality kicked in of trying to look after kids, my wife working, me working. Whoa, this is different. So you have to kind of cut things out. You know what? I got to look after the family. That's the key part of all this. So again, your mindset and how you deal with that. But try and get into that growth mindset. Be aware of that fixed mindset, but the growth mindset. And I think give yourself little challenges as well. What can I do? How can I control this? And again, you're getting into the holistic space in terms of wellness now, movement. Just get out. And I know government guidelines, of course, the 5K, but that's going to be building hopefully to the 20K. But what's in your area? Green space. If you can go for a run, a walk, maybe we've got gardens available to us. If we don't, just even sitting outside, maybe on a balcony in an apartment and putting on an app and listening to, whether it's Headspace or Calm or something like that. But if we can get out and be as active as often as we can, that's really, really important. Looking after yourself physically and mentally, and just clarity, just declutter the mind. Maybe we're all at home, there's a lot going on, that cabin fever creeps in, just getting out for even 20 minutes. That can be really important, just to declutter the mind. Your rest, like I said, again, working remotely, we can all get carried away. Before you know it, you've been sitting at a desk for maybe 3 hours straight. You haven't even had a sip of water. So again, be aware of how rest impacts your life right now. Going to bed, getting up at the same time, build that element of routine. But over the course of the day, 5 minutes here, 10 minutes here. Because the reality is, a lot of people might have used that commute to maybe begin to switch on in the morning time. And then when you're coming home at evening time, that's your way to unwind. That commute may be gone. So you're literally waking up in the morning and you're sitting at your desk. You probably even haven't got dressed. So again, it's just kind of working around those things. Well, 5 minutes here, 10 minutes here. And then obviously food, both for your mental and your physical. A lot of people are talking about people who exercise, and it's great to see it. But to be honest with you, when I see someone out running, I think, well, you know what, maybe there's someone at home who's struggling, and maybe they're not eating well, or they're not feeling themselves well, and that's having an impact on their mental well-being as well. So again, be aware of how you're feeling yourself. I know here in my house, our food bill has gone up by about 40%. You cannot fill these kids; they just keep wanting more and more, and as a result, I find I'm snacking a little bit more as well. So when I do go get those cravings, I try and do something, be it in the garden or get out of the house or, play with the kids or something like that that can just take my mind off it. So again, it's that holistic approach to it is vitally important. But just kind of finishing up, 3 kind of key tips that I would kind of recommend at the moment. Self-care, it's huge. Okay, allow time for yourself. Like I said, get outside and try and structure that into your week, and that will be another key tip around structuring your day, structuring your week. Give purpose to your day. What am I going to do today? What are my times that are on, my times that are off? So again, boundaries, because we're dealing with a lot of stuff. Again, kids, so whether you got your partner, husband, wife might be working as well. It's just trying to create a bit of a structure that it all kind of works well, and then factor in that self-care. When can you refresh? When can you refocus about yourself, your partner, your kids? And again, sometimes you might need a break. You might need a little break by yourself. And like I said, be it exercise or be it using Headspace or one of those apps that can just provide a bit of clarity, or maybe it's sitting out in the back garden or the balcony and reading a book. Something like that can be really, really positive and impactful. And then finally, communicate. Like I said, communication's changed. Where virtual, but again, don't be afraid to get on the phone. Maybe you've got a trusted friend that you're having a bad day and you want to vent, you want to just release that kind of anger, frustration. When will this ever end? I want things to go back to normal. That's okay too. Don't push that away. One thing that I'd recommend people to do is journal. Write down a couple of words. If you're having a moment where you're just frustrated, angry, you've had enough of it, just write those feelings, those words down on a piece of paper. They're out of your head. Okay, so again, journaling can be an impactful way. So you're almost communicating with yourself a little bit. But again, don't be afraid to, talk to people out on the road. Social distancing is has not been relaxed, but we can get into a little bit more kind of group scenarios now. So try and use that to your benefit. But through your colleagues, again, with your professional careers, hat on, tapping up people, asking for help, asking for advice. Okay, so a few little tips there that I'd recommend. But I think, to be honest, when I go back and I think about my career, and I'll kind of finish on this story, kind of different doing this actually, because I'm not hearing anyone, so I hope I'm making sense and people are kind of grasping some of my bits and bobs. But I suppose it's kind of funny even throwing up a slide with money, talking to a lot of accountants, but it is an investment. Okay, and I think we can get caught up with financials and pensions and savings accounts and all this, but it's an opportunity maybe to look after ourselves, maybe check in with ourselves, our family, the people that matter most to us, and try and maybe put a bit of purpose around looking after each other. When I look back at the journey that I've been on, I didn't really look at running as an investment post-career. Yes, when I ran, it was my professional job. It was a job that paid the bills. I didn't really know how impactful getting out and exercising was for not only my physical, but more so my mental. I struggled, as I said, and as I described, but when I started going to counselling, I actually started running again. And this was 2016. Early 2016, I decided, right, I'm going to go up and do my local park run. And I knew it was on, and I tell myself, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. Wednesday, I'm going to do it. Thursday, I'm going to do it. Friday, forget about it. I'm not going up there tomorrow morning. But one Saturday I decided, right, David, no negotiation, get up there and do it. So I drove the car up to Marley Park, as my local, parked the car, walked into the field. The first person that came up to me, he was like, Gillick, great to see you up here. You should win this. And I remember thinking, oh God, like I've never ran a 5K before in my life, and now he's talking about me winning this. And again, like I said, I'd never ran a 5K. There was absolutely no need to, because I was a 400-meter athlete. I was very specialized. All my training revolved around 400 meters. 5K, no need. Just didn't have any impact. So there I was on the start line. And those of you that have ran Park Run, they know all about it. They give a bit of a briefing. Next minute, your man on the microphone was like, "Oh, great to see Olympian David." I was like, "Oh, dear God, get me out of here." But the buzzer went, or the bell went, and I took off like a lunatic. You swear up the local shop. Took off. Again, I'd never ran a 5K. I got to about 2K in the park, and I was dying. I was blowing chunks. I was in bits, but I stuck at it, and I finished probably soon after 10. So that kind of tells you what I was doing for a 5K. But straight away, I felt better about myself. It was a Saturday morning. I felt I started the day in the right way and just a little bit more positive, bit of a positive outlook. So that became my go-to. Every Saturday, I looked forward to getting up to the park and doing a park run. Wasn't doing a whole lot during the week, but I was competitive with myself and I wanted to improve. After a couple of weeks and months, I decided, maybe I'll go down to my local track, which was in Tala. I went down, I knew the coach, knew the group, said I'll jump in here and do a couple of sessions. Tuesday, Thursday, park run on a Saturday. My week had structure. By this point, I began working for myself. I had a few opportunities and I said, I'm going to give these a go. And again, through counselling, so physical and the mental parallel, and it was working well. And after a couple of weeks and months, I decided I'm going to race again. Now, I hadn't raced in nearly 4 years. Truth be told, I was scared of running again. I was scared of going back to 400 meters because I was afraid my body would break down and then that spiral would all start again. But to be honest, I needed to go back to that place. I needed to toe that line. I needed to say goodbye to sport on my terms. And that's exactly what I did. I went to a little race in Italy. It took me a while to get into it. I emailed me promoter. How's it going? I'm David. I ran this. I did this. Can I have a lane? And she said no. And then I went back to her and I just said, look, I have a couple of injury issues, things like that. And she said, did you win Celebrity MasterChef Ireland? This was an Italian lady in Italy. And I was like, what? I spent 15 years trying to run 44 seconds and now I do a reality TV show and that's getting me into athletic races. Just didn't really make sense. But the long and short of it was I ran that race. I wasn't even in the A race. I was in the B race. I came last. I ran 48 seconds, the time I ran when I was back in 5th year in school. But for me, hand on heart, the best race I've ever ran. Why? Because I did it for the right reasons. I did it for myself. I needed to say goodbye to the sport on my terms. And that's what I did. Didn't matter about placing last times. I didn't care. I crossed the line and I was delighted that I ran a 400 meters. And it gave me a lot of self-belief and confidence. And I actually competed that year and ended up making the team for the European Championships, the 4x400 relay, and became 5th in Europe, which wasn't bad. But again, the point I'm kind of making, I suppose, is that it's an investment. Looking after yourself, trying to be aware of how you talk to yourself, providing a bit of self-care, a bit of structure for everything in your life right now, because we're all working remotely. We're all probably at home with a lot of things going on. So a bit of clarity, a bit of structure, and then try and communicate as best you can with the people that are closest to you and also your colleagues, the people that can support you through this as well. So all I would ask is now that, like, I know we're going to get into questions, just conscious of the time. Just spend 44 seconds on yourselves. After this call, before you get stuck back into a phone call, another Zoom, or a piece of work, just spend 44 seconds. Maybe there's a story, maybe there's a word, maybe there's something that resonated with you. Just spend 44 seconds and write that down. And then please try and act on it in the next 24 to 48 hours, because if we don't, nothing will change. Okay. So we have an opportunity now to just spend a bit of time on ourselves. All right. So I just want to say a massive thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to come and chat. I'm going to try and get the questions up here now. Okay. There we go. Okay. We've got a few here. Eugene just said, I appreciate that, Eugene. Quite right. Talk to everyone and tell them everything. I think it's vitally important, and it's something that that I found really, really positive. So again, if anyone's got any questions, please fire them in. I'm just reading down through some of these. Getting up before the rest of the family. Yeah, do you know what? That's a really, really good point. That's Emma. That's something that I've kind of started to do here, is try and win the morning, as I term it. So I try and get up a little bit earlier. I'll be honest, and I'm no saint, but when this all kind of kicked off, my kids were getting up a little bit later, whether it was 7:30 or maybe some mornings it was like 8 o'clock. I tend to stay in bed not with them, but stay in my own bed until they get up. So they were dictating my morning. Now I'll try and get up a little bit earlier. When the alarm clock goes off, I'll try and get out of bed, and whether it's do a piece of work or maybe it's get out and do an element of exercise, it just kind of sets up the day for me, and I feel like I'm winning. I already feel like I'm winning. So I kind of tell people to try and win the morning. Just another one there, learn to say no. Yeah, another huge one. I think what I was having a conversation with my wife Charlotte, and the fact that we don't really feel like we're being pulled and dragged at the moment because everybody is socially distancing and staying at home. But I think learning to say no is huge. I know I've struggled at that in the past. I put people's feelings before my own, and I would just kind of be a bit of a knocking dog. Okay, yeah, I'll do that, at a detriment to myself, but obviously family, time, things like that. So again, learn to say no. I'm getting comfortable to saying no. I think it's sometimes refreshing when you hear someone say, "I can't do that." You don't have to explain yourself, but again, if it doesn't suit, it doesn't suit. Just another one there. Taking time at night. Yeah, again, kind of shutting down at night is. I think what I find is the tendency to get the kids to bed, and then suddenly I'm sitting down watching Netflix and something like that, quite late. It's that routine. I think it's habits and routines. So, maybe at night, I know we're all tired. I know we've had busy days. That's when maybe a bit of fresh air, or, chilling out. The weather's great at the moment. Maybe you've got that balcony, or maybe you've got a garden where you could just maybe have 10 minutes to yourself, or communicating with the people around you as well, family, friends, partners. I think it's very, very important. If there's any more questions, guys, please fire them in. I think I'm looking at them here. No, I just want to say thanks again, and just use that 44 seconds. I know I've talked an awful lot here and thrown kind of a lot of things at you, but just tap into yourself. Just kind of, at times write down how you're feeling. I think journaling is really, really positive and just gives you a bit of structure around that internal dialogue. And again, this isn't all negative as well. If the truth be told, I'm actually quite enjoying where I'm at right now. It's taken a couple of weeks to get here, but this is time with my kids that I'll never get back. And I'm trying to look at it that way. Obviously, personally, I've been impacted by the pandemic. My wife has as well through her work. But at the same time, the weather's been good. I'm spending time with my family that I've never spent before. I'm learning from them. I'm seeing them grow. And I think that's really, really important at the moment, because they're the future. That's why we do all of this. So don't lose sight of your own goals. This will pass. That holiday, whether it's that house or, that new car, new clothes, whatever it is, that'll all come back around. And I think it's just a case right now. Just tapping in, remind yourself that this is all the time that will pass, and we will get back to some form of normality in the coming weeks and months. Okay, I'm just tapping on. Just another question: if sport is such a big part of one life, how do you think? Yeah, it's a really good question. Okay, so if sport is such a big part of one's life, how do you think you can keep a balance that is not for your soul identity? Do you know what? Okay, I'll be honest. I look back at my career and I put everything into the athletic basket. All my social scene, my self-worth, my confidence, all came from one area, just one area of my life. And the advice I'd give to people now, not only in sport, but even in terms of professional careers, is look at where you get your confidence from. Because if it's coming from one area of your life, well, then it's very, very fragile. We have seen through this pandemic, we saw it nearly 10 years ago with a recession, that the minute one massive area of your life can suddenly go, that's when people can both struggle mentally, financially, spiritually, all these kind of areas of your life. So for me, my advice would be to have different areas of your life that you get a lot of positivity from, be it your social, be it your career progression, sport, whatever it is. And I think in the world of sport, they're trying to actually do this a lot more now. They're trying to get athletes, sports people to invest in other areas of their life, be it career, be it education, hobbies, even things like, playing the guitar, because it gives them an outlet, it gives them a little bit of an interest, and I think that's vitally important. So again, for yourselves, maybe it's a case of looking at sorry, just another question coming there. But again, just look at where all your confidence, self-belief is coming through. Just please confirm the name of that book again. The book that I was referring to, well, I'll give you two books, okay? The first book was Mindset by Carol Dweck, a professor over in the States. She wrote a book on mindset, and was really, really, I got a lot out of it. It just resonated an awful lot about the fixed and the growth mindset that I spoke about. So that's Mindset by Carol Dweck. The second book was The Chimp Paradox by Dr. Steve Peters. He was a sports psychologist with British cycling back in the 2012 Olympics, and they won a host of medals, Chris Hoy and all these big names. So he spoke a lot about kind of that internal dialogue. And then another question: who did I reach out for help? Well, I'll be honest with you. The first person I spoke to was Richard Sadler, who some people might know, the football pundit on RTE. Again, he wrote a recent book as well, which is really, really impactful. I know Richie growing up, and obviously similar kind of backgrounds in terms of sport. I rang him, because I knew he'd gone through similar kind of journey. Rang him, had a conversation with him, and that really, really helped. And interestingly enough, I think when it comes to kind of males dealing with mental health, I didn't really want to go to someone and sit down on the other side of a table and have a conversation with them. I felt really awkward. Like, let's go to a cafe. I didn't want that. I felt really awkward. But what Richie did was he said, let's go for a walk. And we went for a walk and didn't have to look at his face, shoulder to shoulder. And that really helped. So again, pick your environment. You know, some people are great and talking to each other face to face. I think Men's Shed is a charity out there that it's a brilliant charity. And their slogan, it reads, women talk face to face, men talk shoulder to shoulder. And again, I felt really awkward talking to my friends and family face to face. How are you? I hated that question. Whereas when I was shoulder to shoulder, that helped an awful lot. From there on, I went to a counsellor. I went to a psychotherapist. He's also CBT, cognitive behavioural therapy as well, and that really helped. And I still go. It's something that I do invest in. I think it's very important. So, guys, just I think have I answered all the questions. If anyone's got anything else before we finish up, please feel free. Look, I hope this was beneficial to you all. I know people are busy, whether it's work, family, kids, whatever it is. So I do appreciate everyone kind of logging on to this. We've had great numbers, and just fair play to chartered accountants for putting on these things at the moment. I think it's really, really important. And again, with everyone kind of tuning in and supporting it, maybe there's an appetite for more there as well. Okay, but just like I said, that 44 seconds, maybe there's something that resonated, something that you felt kind of impactful. Try and act on it, because I think we're in a moment of uncertainty, adversity, all of these kind of words. So just look at yourself, find your way through it. And my slogan, I think, is something that I've kind of used of late is if it's a good enough day, it's good enough. Okay, it's a pandemic, it's a global crisis. Whatever way you can get through it that suits you, well, you know what, that's good enough for you. And that's my parting gift. But look, thank you very much. I'll hang on here. If you need to shoot off, no problem. But if anyone does want to ask me anything, please feel free. Okay, so thank you. I think this is recorded as well, so you might be able to follow up on it as well. So a few messages coming in there of time, so I really appreciate it. It's kind of weird for me to talk on a Zoom like that as well, so I hope it's been beneficial to you all. So thank you.